So last year I started out working on an initiative called Putting the Gene to Gaming. That's a really long title, so we call it GIG. And GIG focuses on attracting women from outside the industry into games, on building diverse future talent pipelines through links with education. And finally, we set out to help studios to identify and take actionable steps, and importantly, to hold themselves accountable to improving the attraction, selection and development and retention of a diverse workforce, which, if anyone's heard me speak about that before, is called ASDA, ASDR. I think for me that was the gap. The real gap is about talking to studios about how to do things and what to do, as opposed to just everybody agreeing that there is a big issue in diversity imbalance. So that's why I was actually really delighted to be on this panel today, because I felt as though it was really very much about the how and what. So I'm joined by a smaller than expected panel to talk about building and maintaining a diverse culture at work. So how we do that to enable women to come to games as a career and to stay and thrive. So we were to be joined by Jo Twist. I will just mention really briefly why she's not here today. Obviously, as the CEO of one of our trade associations, she's representing us today in the media about the latest report, which she tells me came in at midnight. Why would that happen from government? From the Department of Culture, Media and Sport, which is outlining some of the issues that the government have at the moment with the games industry and its protection of children. So pray for Jo, frankly, today. So let's meet our diminished panel. Is Anisa not coming? So if you could tell everybody who you are and who you're representing, that'd be fab.
Hi, I'm Gemma Johnson-Brown. I'm officially going for the largest job title in the world. Stuff gets added to my roles and responsibilities, and I have not learnt to say no in my career yet. So Chief People Officer and Business Development Director at Dovetail Games, and Women in Games Ambassador Director.
Hello, I'm Jess Hyland. I am an artist. I've been in the industry for about just over 10 years now, last month. And I have been quite vocal through pretty much all of that time. I got on Twitter about 9 years ago and I haven't shut up since. I've been quite vocal about sort of feminism and issues facing women in games and diversity in games. I have been helping out women in games for quite a long time, just doing a little bit of Twitter stuff. I am also a founding member of Game Workers Unite, the games industry union. So I would encourage all of you to join the union, obviously. Yes!
Oh, hello. Sit under your picture, Anisa.
Perfect. And also, I am the author of the now annual, I suppose, games industry gender pay gap report. That's a thing that I do now. I've been doing it for the last 2 years. I intend on doing it for a couple more. Collecting the data that the government collects on the gender pay gap in companies around the UK, putting it into a document and saying, hey, look at these numbers. Aren't these bad?
Hi.
We've talked about you.
All right. Oh, great. Awesome. Now let's stop talking about me. Yeah, is this, we do intros?
Yeah,
yeah, okay, cool. Hi, my name is Anisa Sanusi. By day, I'm a UI UX designer at Hutch Games, where we make racing games. Woo. Previously, I was at Frontier Developments, where we made Roller Coaster Tycoon games, and I worked on Planet Coaster. It was great. So by night, and most of my other waking hours, I run a program called Limit Break Mentorship, where it's a mentorship program for underrepresented genders in the game industry. So usually I have to expand this with, it includes cis women, non-binary people, and also trans people. Yeah, just to cover Limit Break a little bit, it's a 6-month-long program, and this is our very first year running it. I'm still learning how to run a program, fucking no idea what I'm doing, but I'm doing it and it's going well. We had a huge amount of response, which is great. So it's only in London because I'm based in London and I can't like stretch myself like that. If I could duplicate myself 7 times, I would, God. We have 150 people applied, and I've accepted 120 people, so that's 60 mentors and 60 mentees across all different disciplines. So you've got producers, you've got programmers, artists, even journalists, video presenters, voice actors, a composer, a sound effects audio engineer. That was so specific. I was like, how am I supposed to find a mentor for you? But I found one. So, yeah, and today I'm here. Okay, cool, hi.
Hi everyone, my name's Harriet. I work as a diversity manager for a consultancy called eSynergy, which means I essentially run the company's sort of community program. It's a 6 and 12-month program, and we help them engage like directly, physically with diverse technical communities rather than looking at their policies and initiatives. It's very much like a meet and greet, sort of things like this, actually reaching out and meeting communities. But as a sort of side thing, I run BEEqual, which is a meetup group of just short of 1,000 members. We're really trying to get to 1,000, so hopefully see you at the next event. We were formerly Women in Tech London, but we changed the name recently. It now stands for Balanced, Empowered, Equal, trying to reflect that gender does not just mean male and female anymore. It's a lot more fluid than that, and it's great to see men in the room. Obviously, women in the tech industry make up 17%, so we really need to engage you in the conversation, otherwise things won't happen. And that's it, really.
What an amazing panel, thank you. So if anyone does have a question or a comment on the way through, please put your hand up, because we do want it to be a conversation, not just a talking at, oh, hello. And here we have the front. Do I have to give my microphone up? Someone told me that, there you go. Let's just pass this.
Sorry, I was just going to ask really quickly, we're both freelance, and I would just love to throw that into the conversation. You don't have to like respond now, but just I would love to hear your thoughts about inclusive company culture when you kind of don't really have a company culture because you are your own culture, if that makes any sense. So I'd just love to hear your thoughts on that.
I like your culture. So I've got 3 questions that I've prepped for the panel, which I hope they know about. So what do we mean by a diverse workforce? It's a term that we use a lot, and possibly just touching on your point there, but what does it look like and what are we actually aiming for? Who's going? To go in order. Go on, you go.
Well, I think a diverse workforce is inclusive. It doesn't exclude any person, thing, thought. Yeah, everybody counts, and achieving that's very difficult. We're Dovetail Games. We're niche categories. We're trains and fishing simulators. That's very difficult to hire for and recruit for. But having an ethos where you are always welcome and your thoughts and inputs are welcome is helping us define our culture. One of our values is we enhance life, so we don't have guns or violence in our games, and that is seen throughout what we employ, who we employ. And so that helps us, having that defined vision and values helps guide us.
So I guess diversity is about having a variety, as wide a variety as possible, of lived experiences and outlooks on life and philosophies on doing things. Because if all of your people look the same and think the same and have the same attitudes, you're going to be making some very boring products. And you're only going to be speaking to a very small subsection of the audience that happens to look like the people in your office. So widening the scope of your games by widening the experience that people are bringing to the table, the outlooks that they have, can only make what you're doing more interesting and more creative and more universal.
Alright, so about diversity, it's not just, as we've covered this, it's not just about gender. There's socioeconomics, there's religion, there's a lot more I can't think of. But yeah, so what that means is that you want to make your space welcoming for all these things. So gender is quite an easy one. Have a fucking tampon bin in your bathroom. believe me, like one of my first jobs, just we had 2 toilets and only one of them had it, and that was after like one of the first girls. And we're like, by the way, can we have a bin, please? Because the founding members, all 5 of them were male. None of them thought about it at all. So sometimes just like bringing that up. Actually, I was wondering this: who here works in a company where tampons are provided in their bathrooms? Nice, well done. Wait. Who provided these tampons? Did you provide them yourselves or the company? Company. Good. Because I had to provide the tampons for the entire my company, and I would sign up like, feel free to use in case of emergency, heart, with a little cat picture. Anyway, yeah. So if I asked this question literally 2 years ago or 3 years ago, probably like a quarter, maybe one person who's just like, yeah, it's in my own house. So that's good, but that's still not quite from just my quickly. That's like maybe half. We can do full on. Like hopefully next year, if I ask this question, the tampon question again, it'll be everybody. But yeah, so that's one thing, just to have like a welcoming environment for, let's say, women. The other thing is, I was on a panel for Muslim representation in video games like a few weeks back, and to make a place welcoming for Muslim practicing people, yes, Muslims, is that as you know, Muslims pray 5 times a day. You know, just having a space that is quite, just quiet. It doesn't have to be like anything special. Just like a really quiet space where they can pray, because prayers take like 5 minutes max. You know, it's really, really quick, and just make it, you know, it's quiet and it's clean, and that's it. And also like just be respectful of the month of Ramadan. You know, so like my studio loves bringing in donuts for everybody. You know. There are days when that's 3 birthdays and there's like 300 different donuts. The worst is when it happens during Ramadan, and where I'm just like, fuck, are you fucking serious? But then one day my colleagues actually came up to me to my desk with a donut like wrapped up, and was like, oh, we know you're fasting, so why don't you bring one home and have it later? I'm like, oh, you guys. So yeah, I know those are like anecdotes, but when we talk about diversity, that's what I mean, not just like hire more women. I mean, that's like, we don't even have to mention that anymore. That's like a given. But also hire more brown people, black people, Muslim people, Jewish people, what have you, you know. When you interview them, is your panel, like your interviewers all just like the same people? Like we have a cultural interview where we make sure that you have at least like 3 or 4 people from different departments, but also different walks of life, you know. One woman here, black back there, you know, just like you have, because we kind of look out for different things in a new recruit. And yeah, make sure that when you do job postings, you know, there's a thing online where you can go through a filter where, does this sound good to like more feminine people? Like, would they read, you know, stuff like ninja code or blah, blah, just take that shit out.
We hate ninja code.
Diversity is actually my full-time job, and I'd be the first person to admit that it's an absolute minefield, and it's okay to not know. The goalposts change every single day. I mean, our next event is on conscious inclusion. Everyone will know it as unconscious bias, but apparently you don't call it that anymore. It changes every single day, and I get asked the question, what is diversity, all the time, obviously when we bring on new clients or I speak to individuals, and I always throw it back to them. It's not okay to ask me what it means, it's what does it mean to your organisation and what does it mean to you individually. Don't copy policies, don't try, you know, if a tampon bin doesn't work for your organisation because you haven't got any women there, don't just put it in just because you have it. Like, it's got to work for you. So look at what you can do, what you can provide, and what resources are there, and provide it. Do what you're comfortable with. It's not, you know, you can't just do things overnight. It's got to be relevant, and sometimes people forget that.
I kind of feel like we're talking from, I want to say the bottom up, that's not quite what I mean, but culture up, if that makes sense, because I think when we think about diversity, that does include everything you've just talked about is in attraction, isn't it? The job ads, making sure that women are actually going to be in your pipeline. I think that's one of the things that we heard the most over maybe the past 5 to 10 years is, but I want the best person for the job. And I'm like, yeah, that's great, but they won't be applying to that job. that job ad. So, you know, you can wish all you want for the best person, but they're probably not queuing up for that job written in the Ninja Code way and that type of thing. So if we're talking mostly about culture, which in my head is about retaining as well as attracting, I have to say, see, my view of a 10-man video game studio would actually be to make their culture more balanced. So I would say to put the tampon bin in, not because it's whimsical or anything, but because actually if you build it, they will come, you know, and yeah, absolutely, because women are attracted by women when they look at you know, where they're going to go. And frankly, okay, you may not have any right now, any women in your team, and there's loads of games companies like that, aren't there? But if you show that actually you're ready and you want, then women will be much more attracted, I think, to those sorts of organisations. So there's, was there anything from the audience on that point at all? Hello? Is there anyone? Oh, it's working. I can run around.
Hi. So there's been a lot of talk about diversity with gender and culture. I'm running an event at the end of October, which I'm very excited about, for deaf and disabled members of my union, for performers. And one of the issues we've been running into is I spoke to a motion capture company to come and speak, and they said, well, we don't get that kind. We don't have people in wheelchairs as characters, so why would we use your colleagues? So we're not going to come. So I guess
put them in a wheelchair.
Yes, I know.
I'll do it for
so
you.
I guess my point is that if it's a company, that's great. You can manage hiring people, but if you're hiring freelance, in my case, performers, how can you alter the culture from the design of the game so that there is room for them in? And would anybody like to come speak on the panel in my event in the end of October?
So that is a very important but complicated question, and as someone who isn't generally involved in the actual finding the contractors part, I know that I have begged my company when looking to hire, freelance or not, to reach out a bit further than they would normally, and not just say, hey, does anyone in the office currently know an animator who's looking for work? Because we need an animator. I was like, if that is as far as your hiring is reaching, you're going to end up finding the same people over and over. But I think it's important to sort of emphasize that people who don't look like the people you've worked with already can still bring something interesting to the table and can make, you know, if you need to sell it to the business people, it'll make your game stand out. It gives you something to talk about, like a USP. But also just it can make your work more interesting. It can make people think more about what you're doing and why you're doing it. Emphasizing the usefulness of diversity to the project is the best way to sort of get that diversity and sort of drill it into the heads of the people at the top, that this could be valuable to us.
I think the other thing on the, what was it, there's nobody in our game like that, so we don't want anyone working on it like that. So what do we do if a game's all about zombies? Yeah, let's go and recruit some of them. I mean, it's literally ludicrous, isn't it, to suggest that, you know, you've got to have the same people as our... it's a complete chicken and egg, isn't it? We want more diversity within our teams so that we can appeal to a wider audience. You know, it just it actually beggars belief, if I'm totally honest, what you're saying. It blows my mind.
And look at it from a team's perspective. If we've just talked about user experience, and I am no designer, just putting my hands up, but does it not be sensible to, isn't that the conversation right now, to make sure you're representative of your users? In which case they should probably be looking at how many users are disabled or have impairments, and maybe they will get more customers as well, I suppose, in the process.
To Anisa's point, though, I would definitely put them in wheelchairs. And I think it was Ernst & Young, they're called EY now, aren't they? They did that with all of their partners, and they literally changed so much about their working practice because of that experience. Like they couldn't reach the lift door at the button, and they couldn't open a conference room door because it was too heavy, things like that, physically. Anyway, sorry, hello. So the lady with the blonde, where's the mic? I'm so sorry, I'm making you run already.
Yeah. So we talk a lot about, like, you know, people who make games should be diverse and games will be diverse, but also we have a lot of people working in offices, front desk, HR. Should they be also diverse people to hire diverse people to work on games, and how can we include them in this process? Any thoughts on that?
This is one I'm very aware of, as I have a very white, female-heavy HR team with one male recruiter who is surrounded by women all day, much to his disgust, I think, at the level of conversation we have. It's something I'm very conscious of, and I'm becoming more and more aware through my career and experiences that I have a preference to who I hire, and I'm really trying to battle that, and so we're starting out looking at job descriptions and behaviours, so we're coming away from that type, but it's a habit. I've been in HR 15 years, so it's ingrained in me. I have to fight it with all my might and try and get that throughout the team, but it's certainly looking at all support functions, how we can make that as diverse as possible. It's an ongoing battle.
Hi. I just wanted to say, ask, other than being a woman, what's different about you all that makes you really excellent at your jobs?
I'm afraid my hearing isn't one of my good things. I didn't hear the middle bit after. About me. Very weird. Wow. Well, I don't think I am different. God, I don't know. Maybe I am. I am enormously driven to leave a legacy that isn't just about recruitment. I've been a recruiter for 25 years. I love it. I think it's brilliant. I love finding talent, as all of the clients in the room will know. But that's not my passion. You know, recruitment is fantastic, and bringing people into businesses, which I've done for a long time, is great. But when it comes to, standing in a school in Dewsbury, talking to two full classes of, one was 17-year-olds and one was about 13, 14-year-olds, and they're in computer science, and there's one girl between the two classes that makes me want to make change. It actually makes me emotional. That's how I feel about it. That there was a wonderful one. There's some fabulous people from EA here, and I did a talk there, and one girl said to us on the panel, "It's 2019. Why are we still talking about this?" And I went, "Because we didn't do anything 15 years ago." And I'm not, being flippant about that. If we don't accelerate change and everybody embrace and do their own thing right now and take action, then we are going to be where we still are in another 15 years' time. And please don't make me speak anymore, because I feel crying. I'm at that weird age. That's the other weird thing about me. Sorry, anyone else just take over.
I don't think there is any superpower. From a very early age, if I was told I can't do something, I was like, yeah, I can. And that's kind of driven a lot of what I want to do. I think you have to be very personal accountable, and if you want something to change, if you want to do something, then you hold yourself personally accountable to do that. And only you can make changes for yourself. I'm a very passionate believer in positive mindset, and think there's a lot of negativity out there, and we can surround ourselves with a lot of hate, and social media is just there, and I just switch it off. I don't want to hear it and just throw it that. But I think you've got to take responsibility for your own care and what you get anywhere. Just take it. Most thing I found is that I've got far by just taking, not in a selfish way, just people don't want to do something, so I'm like, okay, I'll do that. Do it and you get further.
So, what is different about me besides being a woman that makes me better at my job? 'Cause I would have said what's different about me is that I'm depressed as hell, but that doesn't really help with the work. I suppose it does make me a bit more aware of when other people are struggling with mental health problems. I know the warning signs because I exemplify most of them. So I think it can make me a bit more empathetic with colleagues who might be struggling or friends who might be struggling. And admitting this on a live stream is kind of terrifying, actually. But I think, yeah, we're being yeah, you know.
That's what you get when you're like Anisa.
But yeah, so I think that is kind of a different thing about me that helps me in my work.
Okay. Apart from being a woman, it's great. You should try. Yeah. So I think I'm unapologetically loud when I need to be, and that's a good and a bad thing. And also, I'm fueled by spite. Everything I do is literally to prove a point, not to anyone in particular. No, to certain people in particular. But the thing is, the stuff that I do, it is purely selfish and out of spite, and I kind of just really want to show, like, you know what, fuck you, I can do this, which is, I think, an attitude most women who achieve great things have. But for me personally, I want to make sure that if I do that, I'm not at the same time being a detriment to someone else. Which is why I started literally mentorship program Limit Break was born out of spite, because I really need to prove, like, look, I wanted this program to be around. I need to exist, but it wasn't happening. And again, if I just sat around waiting for it to happen, it wouldn't. So I kind of just fucking did it, and like I thought about it this year in April 2019. By May 2019, it was launched, and now we're halfway through, and I've done like several events and stuff, and I don't do events. I'm not that person. I'm just loud on Twitter. So it's kind of amazing just how much motivation could get you if you believe in it too much. If you have that fire underneath you. But more than fire is the belief of the people around me. So I can't take credit for anything that I've done, because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the first person I showed my Google Doc of like a plan of like mentorship. Like I showed them this, like, is this okay? Am I just like overthinking this? Or like, can I do it? They just go like, yeah, you can do it. Just do it. Yeah, I got like 5 girls around me going like, you can do it. Yeah, if you need help, we'll help you out. Blah blah blah. And I went back home, made a logo, and had a friend animate it, put it on Twitter. Suddenly, everyone's like, wow, it's amazing. So anyway, yeah, I would say like funny enough, I feel like the most special thing about me isn't me, but it's the fact that I am blessed with really good people around me who support me, and I want to be that person as well. Like I want to support people as much as I can, because we are only as strong as each other. God, that really. I'm sorry. I was cheesy. I'm sorry.
I'd agree with Jessica. I think your own challenges can really help you empathise with other people. So I'm dyslexic, got diagnosed when I was 18, but I have the reading age of an 8-year-old, and I was kind of sick of being asked if I can write emails and interviews. It's really annoying. And my sister's Asperger's, which she found out, my twin sister, sorry, quite late as well. That's because we lived in quite a rural village, so we didn't really have a support network. So much so that it was very, very white rural village, like think fox hunting, like shooting. We actually had exotic names put in our textbooks just to sort of get us out there to the real world. So I'm now a diversity manager, so not quite sure how I've done that, but
Tell us an exotic name.
Just anything that isn't, I suppose, Katie or Harriet or Emma. Or, I mean, anything really, but yeah, it was just a different upbringing, I suppose, and I'm very honest about it. Yeah, and now I think it's okay to say you don't know. I think a lot of people sort of go, oh yeah, disabilities, yeah. It's like, well, should we actually do something about it? And apart from sort of sponsoring a conference that's or a float at, Pride, it's ridiculous. So it's having honest conversations and upskilling yourselves.
What a great question, thank you. Oh gosh, there's so many questions. Let's come on, let's let a gent ask a question. Is it about discrimination of the room? Oh, yes, is there?
Okay. My question is mostly about if you hire someone or are in the process of hiring someone that is super skilled, it's a common debate, right? But if someone is super skilled but it doesn't match at all at the culture of the company, I just want to know what is your own individual for each of you, your takes in that situation. Yeah, if you have to have a people that is I don't know, any kind of role in the company, right? It's you have someone that is super skilled in his job, but it doesn't match at all the company culture that you have.
Can I clarify? So are you okay? So amazing coder.
Yeah.
Really rare skills. Everybody wants them, but what? They're not a great person? Are you?
No, I mean,
yeah,
it just doesn't match because each company culture is quite different, right? Okay. But it may be it is quite the opposite of what are you looking
I wasn't sure if there was
in your own company culture. Yeah.
I think that's a really good question, because what line do you go on of getting someone that fits your culture and then you have everybody the same, or you have someone that's different to your culture, which is where you look at behaviours, because you can have someone that's different to your culture but has the same right mindset, the right behaviours, that will suit and advance your company and be able to share their skills. I wouldn't necessarily. It's difficult, isn't it, because people hire people they like, and that's one of the hardest things through recruiting and getting people in. You want to have someone that you want to be mates with on your team. It's managing those skills within the recruitment teams and the hiring managers, that they're just not hiring people they like. That's why you need scoring and objective data and everything else that a company should have.
There's definitely a phrase of cultural add rather than cultural fit is a useful phrase, for companies, I think, to think about in that circumstance as well. How's it adding? Should we? Has anyone got anything else to add?
I just add a small comment. It depends. Yeah, I think it's the cultural add. I mean, you can have a rock star developer that comes into an amazing culture, and then you have people leave. That's certainly not what you want. As long as they're doing it in a positive way. His skills or her skills, sorry, probably won't match the skills of everyone else leaving. So it's a gamble. But equally, if they are adding to your culture, then certainly I'd be working with your teams to. I mean, does anyone see the Pixar, the Pixar thing with the pink yarn of wool? Yeah, love that, by the way.
Me too.
If anyone's not seen it, what's it called?
I remember it's yarn.
No,
Pearl.
Pearl.
It's very cute.
She obviously didn't fit, but she could have been a rock star at her job, and that was everyone else needed to support her and make sure she fit in. But equally, if you've got someone that's draining everyone else, no, it's not worth
Just
it.
a cute ball of wool.
Yeah, I guess you have to define what fit means, you know, like hiring someone different from you, what does that mean? Different could mean this person is culturally different, you know, they're from a country that you've never been to, they have a bit of a language barrier, but if they're nice, you know, if they, you know, they kind of get along with everybody else, then isn't that a cultural fit because you guys get along and get to chat? So in my company, at my day job, we have a single interview where it is a cultural interview, and that's the one that I like to partake most in, because I don't ask them about like, oh, how good are you at coding, or like, how well is your painting skills. I ask them stuff like, what do you do for fun, you know? And then it's a two-way conversation, right? They need to know if we're fun as well. And by fun, I don't mean a beer fridge, which is great, by the way, but also have a fruit bowl. Are fruit bowl fun? I don't know. Well, in my company, we have board game night. You know, I run it. I don't know why I'm promoting to you guys. Yeah, so again, it's a cultural fit, right? Yeah, and also, again, with the cultural add and cultural minus. Cultural minus to me, my very first red flag is, are you arrogant? The moment you are, the moment you start to act like you're kind of like, oh, I'm just here to see what it's like, you know, like as if you don't even want the job, like why are you wasting our time, that kind of thing. But yeah, so again, define quite clearly what you mean by cultural fit and see like, oh, this person might be different, but is it a good different or a bad different in such that like, take away energy. There's a thing called, we call it like energy vampires, where you just be around someone and just drain the life force out of you.
Sponge.
Like she's not talking. There you go.
Any other questions? Because yours are much, much better than mine. Is there a lady? I'm so sorry, I'm looking always to the left, so let me go. There's a lady there with the black hair. Oh, I'm so sorry.
I'm
if you
sorry.
drop the mic. No, not drop the mic. Carry on.
So I think everyone in a job currently has the opportunity to open the door for someone else. But naturally, our circles are only going to be so diverse, you know. Everyone has this unconscious bias, as you were saying. So how can we make our circles more diverse and, you know, potentially open the door for someone else that way?
Get some great friends.
Okay, so this is really good because I've been thinking about this quite a lot, and I've been meeting a lot of different people just out of going to different events around. So London's really good for this. London is just way too many people anyway, but there's a lot of like small communities popping up. So for the last few like months, we have in London called POC in Play or POC in Play. So they are specifically for people of color, but it is open to everybody. And you go there, suddenly you just meet so many different people who like software engineers, like this black dude. Sorry, and he's just like, oh, I made a game, and I don't know who else to show this to. And then, you know, suddenly he's just surrounded by like other game developers, and then he would definitely have someone else to recommend. You know, oh, my friend, she doesn't come to these things, but I know she's a really good person who does X, Y, and Z. So that's POC and Play as one example. There's other examples, stuff like I go to a thing called Ladies.ux. So that's not a game-specific meetup group, but it is a women-specific group for UX, and I get to meet people from people who do tech stuff like apps, Facebook, Google, and all that jazz, and I learned so much from them. And then also there's like specific women in games meetups. For a good run this year, we had Coven Club, and we had like loads of people who are, you know, within that range come meet up over like wine and biscuits and things like that. So yeah, there's like loads more. Like loads more of these tiny, it's about looking for these tiny communities and actually attending them, like not like just knowing where they are doesn't do shit unless you actually go and meet people. And yeah, it does take some time and energy, but if that's something that you're passionate about, you just naturally
There's a lot of selling going on this stage.
What did you mean by you want to widen your network? So are you sort of more than just other women? Yeah. So I asked myself this question. So when I started doing sort of diversity community stuff, so that's very much introducing a company to certain communities, but the technical communities. I wanted to upskill myself specifically in physical disabilities and BAME and race networks, and I was kind of like, but is it okay if I attend the meetup? Yes. And it so is. It's quite a scary thing as a white female to attend a BAME or a physical disability thing where you don't resonate, and quite often you're the odd one out. I know that we experience that as a female anyway in the tech industry, but it's different when it's networking event where people are there as a community just to talk about sort of personal things, but would highly recommend doing it. And then you end up growing your network, and you meet one person, they introduce you to so much more. I'm sure you've heard of meetup.com, but literally typing diversity in brings up all like BEEqual, London Tech Ladies, we did Mindful Leadership, you've got Code Untapped, which is a hackathon for people from low socioeconomic status, but typically tends to be BAME. I mean, come and talk to me after, I can literally reel it off. But Skills Matter as well, I don't know if anyone's attended Skills Matter. No? Well, we've partnered with them since 2014. They're the largest tech meetup space for like hosting free meetups in London, and they have loads of cool free events on, and they even have Diversity Matters, but they're massive subject matter experts. Shakib, who runs UX Playground, does a lot of his stuff there. I mean, go and talk to me afterwards, because I can put you in touch with so many groups. Is anyone part of Ada's list? Okay, so that you already know where you should be doing stuff. If you're not part of Ada's list, I highly recommend that you sign up now, like get your phones out. It's about a ADA, named after Ada Lovelace, but it's a network for females within technology as a whole. I think the global, online, all a forum, I think the global one's like 7,500 members, London's just short of 7,000, and people are just constantly cross-sharing opportunities, whether that be jobs, events, meetups. It's a massive support network, and I utilise it constantly, and so does my network, so get on there, everyone, please.
I'm conscious that I want to make sure that we're answering the question as well as everybody, you know, to me, the topic that we came for, which is just, it's about cultural action as well, isn't it? So does anyone have a question or a comment, or maybe some great things that they've experienced in terms of good initiatives, either where they're working or that they've seen in other companies that really are pushing forward the culture for inclusion? Anyone got any things to say? Oh, I'm so sorry about the microphone going down. The lady in the red.
So at our company, as a result of the gender pay gap report, we've started a women's interest group, which is a regular meetup within the company. And that's been really useful to discuss, like, you know, diversity generally. And it's what led to us all coming here, actually. And it's kind of I don't know if you have any ideas for like similar things that people can do within their companies?
It's we were talking about sort of advocacy groups, or internal groups, to make sure that there was an outlet for discussion about perhaps challenges that underrepresented groups might have within the organisation, and also to influence policy and change within the company. To make sure it's out there. Is that the sort of thing that you guys have?
Employee-led groups.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to be really controversial. I don't know how I feel about them. I love the fact that people do them, but I hate the fact that organisations don't put it as someone's job description or pay them to do that. I think it's incredibly unfair. I like, please don't stop doing it, because if they're not going to replace it, but they should be having, you do your full-time job and then you're in sometimes, how many hours a week? Tell me, how long does it take you to do this? Like, do you commit to it? A couple of hours a week? More?
I know, how often do you get? Yeah, the bi-monthly meeting.
So it's also, there's no, I guess from a games industry perspective, perhaps from what I've seen anyway, it's really needed. So I'm not saying that it's perhaps the best setup in the world, that it's not maybe a paid thing,
it's cross industry that you have corporate resource groups that are led by employees. My opinion on it is great, applaud those who are doing it, but sit down with them in their next one-to-one or promotional review meeting, add it as part of their job deliverables so that it's included in their time frame, so they're not having to add 5-10 hours a week on top of their current job. And if they are sitting and being such a crucial role within the business, maybe award them with it, with like a little bit of an increased bonus or a pay package, because hiring a diversity manager, I mean, well, hiring a diversity consultant is about £60,000 a year plus the budget for it. So if they've got people doing it for free within their organisation, they are doing well. Well done to them.
There's a lady. Oh, where's the microphone gone? Oh, you've still got it. Cool. It's a lady in the blue top.
So I work at Jagex, and we actually have a diversity group that's now running year 2 that we started, and we're doing a bunch of stuff. We had a video out for International Women's Day, just trying to, promote the women that work at our studio to inspire others to get more visibility. We also had a Reddit Ask Me Anything, where we kind of directed ourselves to any women or anyone who wanted to ask women how it is, working in the industry, whatever advice that, that we can give. We had I led a workshop for a college, an all-female college at Newham that came over, where we taught them just to make their own game in Unity. We also sponsored Pride, the first Cambridge Pride this year, with a well-being lounge. And just a bunch of initiatives. Internally, we are also looking to strengthen the retention and the well-being of our employees. For example, we're trying to put a diversity well-being champion specifically in there. We're trying to get a guideline out for how can you swap your gender, who do you talk to, how does that happen. We're getting a gender-neutral toilet. We're updating all our company internal documentation. We're trying to get it in the HR introduction practice that you can actually, hey, there's a group here, there's a Slack network for diversity, come join it. And we're also having monthly meetups to just get together and talk about what are our goals, which kind of activities do we want to do, who wants to run them, what do you need, what kind of budget, what kind of resources, and then just making sure that it happens.
Market-linked stuff. So just let me check on time. What time have I got? David, who's monitoring me? Oh, right, okay. I just wanted to see if we can address, I think we can see a lot of progress. That sort of example is absolutely phenomenal, and I'm aware of a lot of things, and obviously the panel is involved in some great work. There are, however, still some who are resistant to change, or perhaps talking the talk but not walking the walk. So what can we do about that? Any thoughts on the panel first? Where's that?
So this is about people who are resistant to change, and it's also about Jagex and gender-neutral bathrooms. I used to work at Jagex for about 5 years, 10 years ago, and at the time we were in a different building, and there were 2 bathrooms upstairs and 1 downstairs. And at some point there was a company reshuffle, some teams were moved around, brought into the main building, and in response to that, one of the bathrooms upstairs was changed from, it went from a men's bathroom to a unisex bathroom because of the different sort of demand for toilet facilities. And that was generally well received move, except for one guy. I don't remember who exactly it was. He probably doesn't work there anymore. But he had a tantrum about it. He was like, I'm not using a gender-neutral bathroom. I cannot pee in peace if I know that there are women nearby. That is an example of someone who is resistant to change. But you know what? He got over it, or he dealt with it. I don't know. I don't really care. The gender-neutral bathroom stayed, at least until we left that building. Yeah, I know the building. I'm glad that they have one again now.
I think if you're sitting in the audience thinking, what can I do myself? Join the Ambassador Programme of Games. Absolute shameless plug, but it is a Women in Games conference. You can go online onto Google and fill the form out. We've got nearly 100 women, men across the world, Australia, America. The network is growing, so I took it over in January. And the idea is with our growing corporate ambassadors, they will become sort of hubs for creating. So whilst your employer might not be as open to change and diversity, there are plenty of corporate ambassadors around the country that are, and we'll be working with them. So
diverse-ish organisations. I stole that from someone, I can't remember where, but it's basically saying it's like sponsoring Pride but never having had an LGBTQ plus person through the door or something like that. It's the term. But I think the response is to what can you do and how do you deal with it. I think anyone can. I think whether you're the office assistant or you're the CEO, I think if you equip yourself with a business case, don't just see it as a ethical thing, actually see it as a business case. I mean, I reel off the stats, which is inclusive teams, here we go, make 87% better business decisions, make better business decisions 87% of the time, in half the meetings 2 times faster, and deliver 60% better results. Anyone can stand up and say that to their, I mean, obviously quickly write it down. But, say it again. But you know, if you put a business case to it and say, we will save you money in whatever fees, we will make your business better compared to all the competitors in terms of creativity and innovation, you will enjoy working here more. I think it doesn't matter who you are. Do reading, come to panels like this, come to BEEqual. You know, I think that it's as simple as that, and it doesn't matter who you are, the PA, the CEO, it really doesn't matter. Just upskill yourself and others. They will listen.
I do have a view that certainly candidates who are looking for jobs now are much, much more sophisticated than they ever were. And people are looking for great companies who are forward-thinking. They have a diverse board. They know what they're getting into. And that is going to push change without doubt. Because those who are diverse-ish, I love that.
Stole it. I stole it. I can't remember where.
I love it. They're going to get left behind for certain. And I think the more that we take action and, you know, we really start to push forward some of the initiatives like the ladies at Jagex have just talked about, the industry is going to mature and people are going to choose, frankly, with their feet. Is that the right phrase? Right, any more questions in our last few minutes? Oh, hello at the back. Sorry for the microphone lady. Mm-hmm. The lady at the back, put your hand up again so she knows. There you go. She knows where you.
Hi. I think there should be the understanding that the people in this room have taken a step towards games and are already here. Whether they think they've made it or not, that's like a different matter, but I think there's often the understanding by younger women that this isn't an option, that they aren't presented with that option at a very young age. I mean, I went to an all-girls school pretty much all my life, and games were sort of laughed at. It was like nothing, you know, like I wouldn't be able to do it. I was asking for attention, yada, 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 yada. What is the best way that we can promote it from a younger age? Not just the women that appear and say, I want to do it, but also telling women that you can do it.
So one of the things that that we did, God, it's probably about 8 or 9 months ago now, was to, we shamelessly plugged a Wonder Woman feature on LinkedIn to try to attract, this is actually about women who weren't working in the industry, to try and attract coders under the gig banner. I'll be totally honest with you, I'm not interested in putting them through our recruitment business. I just want them to talk to people in the industry. And there is a slight issue when you start to talk to people who are at, say, Google or Facebook or something like that, who are fantastically skilled and probably haven't even thought about games as a career, because it's just not visible in that sense. But then they come at a much higher price because perhaps they're working, I always say Barclays, but anyway, they're working banking or something like that, and they also haven't shipped a game. So there's a huge mismatch in terms of what the industry actually needs and what we have a supply of in terms of experienced women. That's only one thing. In terms of pipeline, and you're absolutely right. From my perspective, every time we hear things that are going on in the industry, they're always targeted to girls who are already gamers. And I'm always like, but what about the ones who don't even know it's a career? One of my big things is about talking to parents and getting parents engaged. Because I go back to that school, it was in Dewsbury in Yorkshire, which is actually quite a deprived area. And all of their parents just want them to be accountants or whatever, you know, lawyers, doctors, etc. And games is just, it's something they do, and actually it's a bit of a pain to the parents. So unless the child is a massive gamer in the first place, they won't kind of battle that. There's been loads of conversation about marketing of games and the way that that's been done over the last sort of 20, 25 years, which essentially says that it's a boys' thing. Girls don't think they can come into games because it's about being a geek. I talk about the, I can see one at the back, wonderful blue-haired ladies in the industry. And I always say, look, we just kind of need more brunettes to stand up and say, sorry about brunettes, but you know, blondes, brunettes, to say it's for you, that they can fit into the industry. The only thing that, there was a session this morning about toxicity, online gaming. That is having a huge impact still on the, because girls seem to feel that the people who are playing the games are also those who are making the games. And if you don't make that distinction, especially on things like social media, then girls will just assume that that toxic environment is actually in those who make it as well. And so there are loads and loads of issues in terms of attraction. But part of my, well, Mary Claire knows this really well, but part of the thing that we really want to do is get women in the industry in front of girls at a super, super young age. Digital Schoolhouse from UK is a brilliant, brilliant educational program for primary school, and girls are smashing it when it comes to maths and fantastic problem solving in those classes, but it kind of stops at about, I think it's about 7 or 8, and that's where we lose them. We lose girls then. So we've been advocating getting us in front of that age group in whatever way, and obviously, you know, Jagex talking about it, and literally getting in front of them and inspiring the next generation, because we're losing them just before they start to make all of those important choices. I hope.
In just there is something that I've no, for anyone that would like to get involved as an individual or as an organisation, there's something called Innovate Her, which picks up exactly then. She's lovely, the person that runs it. She's actually coming over to London, sneak peek, or trying to. So maybe if we get some more mentors and some more organisations willing to help, she'll be able to come over. She's currently up north. Chelsea, isn't it? Chelsea. Yeah, Chelsea. But essentially, for anyone that doesn't know, they basically try and target them when they're making their educational decisions, which is at, normally at sort of GCSEs, A-levels, and that's when they do their coding clubs and courses. I mean, I've been through Code First Girls. I've done their basic and their Python course. It's fantastic, but it got me at 18. That's the minimum age, and so does Code Bar. So yeah, please, and exactly ditto your comments of get involved with organisations such as Innovate Her. If you want to go the whole hog and go younger, Code Club, I'm sure you've all heard of it, but they're always looking for hosts and mentors, and if you're really willing to give up your time and resources, they'll be more than happy.
There is something called Innovate Guildford, and they actually do have a day where you can bring your family in, and it's really great because you get to bring your kids, and there's like Minecraft stuff and things like that, and it just kind of helps the parents understand and get involved as well. And they did an article about getting parents involved in understanding how to code and things like that, and I think if we can encourage that kind of things, and they do that in Guildford, so.
Yeah, sometimes we have kids come into the company, and then we have a few people just show them around, just be like, this is what I do. And I always show them my really shit anime pictures when I was 15. I used to draw this. Now I work in games. How cool am I? Yeah. that didn't work.
Yeah, so I'm Karen from Sumo. Just to echo what you said, often there's, certain resource issues within the HR teams, or there's loads of things that we know we can and should be doing, but sometimes there's bandwidth problems. So to actually get external companies help, that gets the output that you need focused in the right way. And we've just ran an initiative with the Head Partnership where we've worked with 360 students across 3 schools in Sheffield, and it's all about targeting that age group that they didn't know careers in video games existed, they didn't know it was an option. And we've just had some stats back, and out of all the kids that we worked with, 60% were girls, and 37% before the event didn't even think video games was an option, didn't know what careers were in there. And when they were surveyed after the event, 94% now are much more aware. So it works, it absolutely works.
I hope that answers.
And the staff had an amazing time.
Oh, right, we're wrapping. Right, okay, gosh. No, it's cool. I've had a really amazing time, so I hope everyone's enjoyed it. Thank you so much to this fantastic panel. I think, I genuinely think you've actually shared loads and loads of really great positive things, as well as some very personal stuff, and I appreciate all of that. Thank you.
Thank you so much to our amazing panellists. Now, I know we have reached the last session of the day, but this one is going to be super fun. It is a surprise session. Oh, thank you. I'll hand this to Lily. Thank you. So, yes, in just a moment. Oh, I'll let the shifters shift. I know there's always a bit of movement.